Shut up and sit down.
Welcome to the Bricks King podcast, where I'm going to bend your ear about Lego, review those amazing bricks of plastic, and discuss what is new and up and coming around the Lego world. I am your minifig host, Matt. Let's build on it. Welcome back, everybody. Episode 8, Part 2 is here. In Part 2, we're going to discuss some interesting things that have to do with price per part. We always hit on it when we talk about different sets and the cost, and talk about the price per part cost. And Will really breaks down exactly what that means to you and I and whoever else that is playing with Lego. Maybe you care, maybe you don't, but it really led to some really great discussion, as long as answering a question about minifigs and how they're collectible and some of the problems that some of you may face trying to add minifigs to your collectible collection. Without further ado, here we go, part number 2. So the last time that we had talked about, I don't know, it's been, I guess, about 6 weeks ago since the last time we did an episode. Since then, you had talked about the Brickheadz, and you asked me if I was kind of into the Brickheadz thing, and I never really got into it. But I know they have, I can't remember the exact name of it, but you create your own Brickhead. That's essentially what it is. You get the kit.
It's called Go Brick Me.
Go Brick Me, and you can create your own.
It's a horrible. It's a horrible. You can actually create two with the Go Brick Me set. They have plenty of parts to get 3 types of skin tones. You got your basic tan, you got your dark tan, you got your reddish brown. There are, I want to say, 4 different hair color types. There's yellow for blonde, a dark orange, a reddish brown, and black. And then it has all sorts of extra bits and colors, so you can make the bodies and the legs and the various. I think there was even a sample for like a skirt for like a little cheerleader. The instructions are interesting in the fact that they're meant to be suggestions. Like, for example, if you have no idea how to make anything, this will give you a template for, like half a dozen of these and half a dozen of these, and you can just do like a mix and match. I personally took it and just built on my own.
Right. And I saw that in a video that somebody had, they were showing the instructions if you need to use that. And they give you that template for people that, might not be the most creative or might be struggling how to figure out how they want to, how to get this thing to turn out a certain way. It's a really cool idea. I mean, it can at least throw you a bone here and say, okay, I want to kind of it to look like this here. And like you said, you can kind of take that and run with it that way, whereas you did it on your own. How did yours turn out?
Oh, it turned out pretty good. I'm starting to use it as my avatar for my Facebook page. We built one for my wife and one for me, and even took it into our last club meeting. And yeah, everyone agreed. It's like, yeah, that kind of looks like you. I ended up giving myself like a yellow smiley face hoodie for my torso. Put some square glasses on and just styled my hair and kind of the way it is, where it's just big up top but still short. And then did my wife's hair, where she's about shoulder length and it kind of has this little flare at the bottom. So had fun just trying to figure out how to layer it properly.
Sure.
Yeah, and then you get a host of stickers so for example, if you want to create some sort of graphic for your minifigure, like their t-shirt, you have a whole host of musical whatnots and pixelated and doodads and swords and bangs and just a whole lot of generic things that are very representative. So it's like having a whole pack of icon stickers that they work really, really well.
Interesting. So that's one of the cool things because you get to create your own dude or dudette, I guess, if you're on the female side of this. But you and I were talking, and we've mentioned it in the other podcast before. I think it was episode 7, the price per part kind of thing. You know, sometimes that's it's kind of a weird metric to look at sometimes. But if you're going to look at that, this is 4 cents per part here with this little kit, which is a steal in Legoland.
It's just shy of 800 pieces and for $30. You can't really beat that.
No, you're not going to find an 800 piece set for that price at all in Lego's catalog.
Yeah, normally when you get to about 800 pieces, you're looking at a $100 set. Yep. That's typically how it works out. Although there is a breakdown and a reason why certain sets like this can get away with it. So let's go down on how a price breakdown works. So First thing we got is the IP. Anything that involves some sort of license is going to cost more. Because the deal that Lego makes with them does mean they have to pay for that IP, and I think the IP then turns around. And I'm not exactly sure how the deal works. I just know that that's when they actually make more specialized pieces, and because of that process, the cost goes up. Now, the second thing is color. There are, as you know, many different colors in the Lego palette. And depending on what color it is, it actually does cost more. The reason why I know this is there's a program called Lug Bulk that many groups use, and they're paying at cost prices. Now, one of the things I can't talk about is how much pieces are. But when you're looking at, let's just say, a 1x4 brick, and you look at it in white and black and reddish brown and in sand green and sand red and all the various colors, there are colors that are just more expensive. And it's probably due to it's a manufacturing cost. Now, another aspect on what brings up cost is the amount of plastic. So, for example, your Jurassic Parks, you've seen, you've even said when you're like reviewing them, you looked at the cost and you're like, I don't know. The parts per piece is not good.
Right.
And that's because those big dinosaur pieces are a lot of plastic.
Yes,
Therefore, the price goes up. Another thing is painting. So, again, dinosaur pieces typically are painted. That adds into the cost. Another thing, evergreen parts versus more specialized parts. Now, when Lego creates parts, they'll have a kind of a indicator of, well, how often are we going to use this? And if it's going to be, we're always going to use this, like a basic 2x4 brick, it becomes an evergreen part. And what that means is when they spend money to make the molds that get injected, they'll spend more money on them to make them more durable. So that usually sets them back about $150,000 for making one of these trays, and that's just for one part type, a 2x4 brick.
Okay.
Yes. Then you have specialized pieces that are, say, like hairs for a minifigure for this one character that only looks like this. It's not going to be a part that they probably will use a lot of. In some cases, they do. So that tray will then be anywhere between $25,000 on the low end and probably $50,000, pushing $75,000 on the higher end, depending on how useful they think the part is. So then that translates into it, because if they're spending that much money just for one part, just to add to one set, that cost has to go somewhere. So that's another reason. In the case of the Brickheadz, we have a lot of evergreen parts that are really small, and are not in weird, strange colors. I think the weirdest colors on there is maybe a purple and a pink, but even those are becoming a little bit more regular with the Friends sets being more successful in the marketplace,
right,
along with the Disney Princess and the Elves and that whole line. So they can actually cut some of the costs down on that. That is why the Go Brick Me's are so cheap. The long and short of it is it has all the factors pointing towards these parts can be cheaper. These parts can be cheaper. These parts can be cheaper. And but when you compare it to, say, a Star Wars set, it can't even come close.
No, of course it can't.
Yeah. In fact, I think that's one of the problems with the roller coaster is all that track is probably a very specialized part that is not quite, they consider an evergreen part since they don't plan to always make roller coasters, and it takes up a lot of plastic, and it's just one of those things where it keeps pointing to, hey, it's more expensive, it's more expensive, it's really expensive.
Right, and that's one of those things that they're gonna they use the track, but with the Joker manner, but it's one of those things that they're gonna find a way to use it somehow going forward. I mean, I don't think this is just going to be one of those things that's going to be a one and done, or a two and done in this case with the Joker manor and now the roller coaster. They're gonna find another way to use it somehow. I have no doubt.
Yeah, and they're really good at trying to find new ways. Like, for example, the paint roller, when it came out, they used it as a light fixture in the detective's office. When the Lord of the Rings, One Ring to Rule Them All, came out, they started using them for proposals and finding other places to stick a ring in whenever they can. So, yeah, they'll try to get as much use, because every time they find another use for it, it can bring the cost down, because now it's not going for just that one specialized set.
Well, and you had mentioned to me the last time you were on to do the UCS review, the greebling that you said on the outside was a mix of a bunch of different parts that you wouldn't typically expect. I don't remember what they were exactly, but just something that you really, I guess, wouldn't really expect on a Star Wars set.
Yeah,
well,
that's because it was a lot of like minifigure accessories. We had binoculars, we had telescopes, we had paint rollers, we had pizza cutters. We had handlebars. There was a jackhammer in there. There was the nozzles for. It kind of looks like a gun, but it's just mostly a nozzle.
Right.
We just had. It was a lot of pieces that, for the most part, are kind of bland. But you put enough of them on a large enough surface, and it looks very, very complex.
Well, and then, like you said, your Lego's finding a way to use those pieces, bring the cost down a little bit. But I going forward, I will be curious to see how they use the track from the roller coaster. I mean, you've got a couple different molds there, because you have rounded piece, you have a straight piece that's flat, then you have the angled piece. And so I'm curious to see where they go with it. But that is really cool, though. I had no idea. I mean, I knew the more plastic you use, like with the dinosaurs for the Jurassic World sets, and the painting that goes with them, I knew that kind of obviously adjusts the cost, because you're using more plastic, and then you have to paint it versus just making this standard kind of plate or standard part. But I had no idea that it was really that complex. I mean, we are the end user, and you buy this thing, and you never really stop and think. At least most people don't stop and think, how much did it cost to get to this point of, having this, whatever it is. Let's say it's just a small little $30 set, a couple hundred pieces. There's so much in the design that goes through, and iteration after iteration of changes until it's finally ready. And then they have to get all the molds ready to go, and everything's got to be perfect. And then the testing of everything and making sure everything's 100% accurate. There's a lot to it. And then, I mean, Lego, all those costs for them are up front right away. And, then you get into specialized pieces, and then it becomes even more, like you had mentioned. If you're going to create this one piece of hair for this minifig because that's what the minifig looks like. Like, I don't have anything specific in mind, but let's say it's something to do with Iron Man or Marvel, something like that. If you're trying to match
Lucius
that,
Malfoy,
you're right. So you're trying to match that. That's going to change your cost. And at the end of it, I'm just buying this thing. I'm like, it's this much.
Yeah.
But I got to stop and think, okay, how much did this really cost to get to this point?
Yes, because if they're end user, mostly it's how many parts is it, how much does it cost, divide one by the other, that's how much it is. It's a simplistic way to get there.
Sure.
And but when you actually get a chance to see when you're buying parts at cost, it kind of sinks in more of, oh yeah, that is worth that much more because of the complexity, because of the painting, because of the size, because of the specialty aspect of it. That makes sense. And it's just something that end users don't typically see. And you can actually see it fairly well when it comes to, say, the collectible minifigures. The first couple of series that came out, those things were selling for $1.99. And now they're $3.99. And you're thinking, wow, how did they go from $1.99 to double their price? Well, if you look at the minifigures that are in there, you can actually see them cutting cost. Because, like, the first series, aside from maybe a club for the caveman and a skateboard, and maybe the hair piece for the caveman, they really didn't do much in the way of new parts. Whereas now, because they have more room to play with, they can create very colorful balloon animals, detailed hats and hairs, costumes of a race car or a flower pot or a giant cake, because now they have the room to cover the cost of all that manufacturing. And those are good examples of parts that they typically will look at and go, we're not going to make this over and over and over again, so we're going to go cheap on the molds, and which further makes them rare, even to us. No matter how much we actually want more of the new balloons or the this and that. They'll do it when they can, but there are certain pieces on there that are just only made for that collectible minifigure. And
right.
Well, that's why that thing sells for so much.
Well, I got to say, and I'm not a minifigure collector, but I know there's a bunch out there, and I was looking at the Series 18 that I was going through these, and I'm looking at them and I'm like, they are some really cool looking. This is a really cool looking group. Man, I wish I was a millionaire and I could no, I don't even want to be a millionaire. I want to be with the Lego group, and I want them to say, hey, we want you to take this. Each one that comes off the line, we want you to take it home and try it out. Let us know what you think. And you can keep it, by the way, and it's not going to cost you anything. That's all I want. That's all I want. Is that too much to ask?
Yes, that's too much.
That is way too much.
They said you complained about our Jurassic World sets. Too much.
They are super neat, and we're in the process of collecting some of them because my kiddo is like, I mean, they're dinosaurs, and I'm a giant just dinosaur movie fan of the whole Jurassic Park theme, but he's, the toy thing he's still at that age where it's still cool, and give it a couple more years and be like, I don't want that. That's stupid. But I got a question.
Too bad it's not for you.
Yeah, exactly.
This is for Daddy.
This is for me. You go do whatever you do. I got an email from a nice lady earlier this week and out of Boston. So there was a young lady, she had emailed me, and she was asking me what my thoughts were on Lego only releasing one policeman minifigure in the Series 18 that came out. She said that she had read on Reddit somewhere that a lot of people were going through great lengths to get that particular one. And she said they're spending a lot of times in stores feeling the blind bags. I'm not quite sure what she's referring to there. She had mentioned that it's, kind of shady and stuff like that. What can you shine on this light, or what light can you shine on this?
I will say, yes, it's interesting. So what is she referring to is in every box or very case of 60 minifigures, there's going to be one classic policeman. It's a 1978 reconstruction. He is absolutely the most boring figure in the set. That is actually a positive in Lego's behalf, because there are a lot of people like, I don't want it. I'm not going to bother with it. Another positive is they didn't do the same thing they did with Mr. Gold. Mr. Gold was 10,000 worldwide. If you found one, it had a little numbered certificate that you could then register, and then you'd populate this map to show where all of them showed up.
Okay.
I found one. In fact, I found both a policeman and a Mr. Gold. I sold the Mr. Gold for $725. I sold the policeman for about $30. So the policeman is only there to satiate collectors.
Okay.
As for the set itself, there are 16 other minifigures, which is essentially a full set when it comes right down to it. That policeman is just extra collector fodder, because they understand one big element of, well, something called a collectible minifigure is the collectability. And there are so many products out there that play around with the idea of rares. And this is Lego's attempt to do that again and try different formulas. Because even from the very beginning, they had rarity built into the cases, where a lot of the rare ones, there was only 2 in a box.
Okay.
So that, yeah, this is them trying to expand the upper limit of that, and they're seeing, does it work still if there's only one figure in a case? How does that work? And let's do this with a fairly safe figure, which is the policeman, because he's so boring.
Okay.
And in comparison to a set of 16 of super awesome figures. Everyone's in a costume. Everyone looks like nothing you've ever seen before.
Absolutely.
They just blow your mind left and right, and throwing in a policeman seems like a good way to test this. So what it comes down to is, yes, I understand what they're doing. I am a little ambivalent about it, because, and the reason why is, one, I find I don't need to collect everything. And 2, I make a big profit. I make a big profit whenever this stuff happens. So that's why I'm not bothered by it. But I can see it irking some people, and this is especially the collectionist portion of the audience, is, yeah, you're going to be spending a lot of time, because resellers, and that's one of the things I do. I resell Lego to help pay for Lego.
Right.
People like me are going to take advantage of you. And I can't really feel bad about it, because I've honed my skill and I'm just trying to buy more Lego, and I try to be fair about the prices, but at the same time, this is a new experiment for Lego. And I think I wrote on, when I was talking about the UCS, they're trying to also develop a class system. Where there are people, or there's an audience out there that's willing to spend hundreds upon hundreds of dollars. And the roller coaster is another example of this, where this is out of most people's price range, but they're looking to build that audience. So you go in and you try to do this with everything you make. You when it comes to collectible minifigures, let's try to make that highly collectible feature to it and see where that takes us. Does this earn us more money? Because I know a lot of people probably just bought complete boxes of Series 10 when Mr. Gold came out, in the hopes of accidentally stumbling on one. When I found mine, I went through, I don't know how many Targets, and I felt through upwards of 700 minifigures. until I actually found one. But I found one, and I have to say I like the policeman much better than I do Mr. Gold. So yeah, but beyond that, I can understand why she's frustrated.
Well, and I don't, like I had mentioned, I don't collect the minifigures. I may have to start because the Series 18 are pretty stinking awesome. Yeah. But I didn't. Now that I popped on Lego's website here, and I didn't realize, I thought they came as a set. Like, you got this guy, all of these guys. So when I got her email, I was kind of confused a little bit. Like, well, what do you mean? It comes in. I didn't realize these were individual little dudes on their own.
Yes, they're blind bags. Yeah,
I understand that now. I didn't quite understand what she was getting at. So I can see the frustration, especially you've got, people that go in there and do that. But in a sense, I hate to say it, but like you had mentioned, it's kind of the way, it works out,
Yeah. And like for my part is, I know I take advantage of people, but basically what I'm charging for is my time and my time and my skill to find these things. However, I don't leave people hanging who aren't willing to pay the price. And one thing that I like to typically do is create a how to feel guide, and we put it up on the Brick blogger so that you can go through and you can look of like, okay, I really want, the policeman. What type of things do I need to feel for to make it easier on me to go through and goes, nope, that's a flower pot girl. Nope, that's a cactus girl. Nope, that's a fireworks guy. No, that's a cowboy. That's another cowboy. Here's the policeman.
Right. You said put a how-to field guide together, and in the back of my mind, I immediately go, when you're a kid and you go to the doctor and your parents fill out the paperwork and it has the faces on there, the pain faces, rate your pain from this face to this face, and immediately went through my head just then. I'm like, oh my, it's been a long day. But that is kind of interesting though, because looking at all of these right now, you're going to feel subtleties in all of them to a degree. I mean, I'm looking at the little girl that has a balloon and the party hat, and then you have
she looks the little boy.
Right.
So the key features is you can either look for her hair, but I find a lot of people have trouble with the hair. So the more distinguishing feature is the little girl has little 1x1 round tiles, whereas the boy has 1x1 square tiles.
Look at that. Gee whiz.
She also has a party hat, but not many people are familiar with the party hat.
Yeah, I can see that. It's just interesting. I mean, there's so many different things to this, and I would have never thought that people would go through and do that. But then at the same time, I guess it's no different than any other craze. Lego isn't really a craze, I don't think. It's just it's a lifestyle. It's not. Go ahead.
I would say that Lego really kicked off a lot of the blind bags and how it's currently done in toys, because ever since they came out with it, I've started seeing Mega Bloks try to do it, Hasbro doing it with My Little Pony, and it's not that blind bag type things have been an old concept or a new concept to Lego. It's just, I think they made it fashionable for the toy industry in how it's currently done.
Sure.
But yeah, I've worked my fingers raw going through figures, especially Series 10 when Mr. Gold came out, because man, that was profitable. That was so profitable.
Well, yeah. And now you're like, well, what can I do now to find what the next one is? So I was actually kind of I was excited when the policeman came out and they said, oh, there's only going to be one. And I looked at it, I was like, I don't want that, but I do want to sell it. Right. I want to make the money off this guy. And I'm guessing based on the tone of this wonderful lady's email, she's just kind of exasperated. Like maybe she's trying to find that the golden ticket, like Willy Wonka kind of thing. Maybe that's what maybe it's one of the last ones that she's trying to find or whatever. Obviously, it's got a hot ticket to it right now, if that's what's going on. But good luck for those of you trying to find it, I guess, from what I'm hearing.
Yeah, and I find on Bricklink the price is slowly coming down. Last time I looked at it, it went from I sold it at $28.50. It was down to $24.99 now. So it was creeping down where all the collectors who were desperate for it are kind of getting their fill. They got their collections complete. They don't need it anymore. So the demand is starting to drop off because, like I said, he's not the most exciting figure. He's rather bland.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. I've been staring at this thing for the last couple minutes, and I'm like, okay, I had one of those kind of when I was a kid, one of the 80s versions, and it didn't change much from 78 until, the next couple of years. I mean, it just has that goofy smile, the two eyes, and the plain police jacket with the
hat?
Regular black pants and the hat, the typical hat.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Well, that'll do it for episode number 8, part 2. Be sure to catch the final part. That'll be right around the corner. Until then, why not follow us over on our social media? That's a great place to hang out, right? You can follow us over at facebook.com/The Bricks King Podcast. Over on Instagram at The Bricks King Podcast. Over out on Twitter, you can find us at The Bricks King. And lastly, our email. If you have any questions or comments or concerns, go ahead and email us over at thebricksking@gmail.com. And lastly, I cannot thank you guys enough for the support of this show. And it's moving up the boards on iTunes and wherever it is downloaded. It's all because of you guys. I cannot thank you guys enough. I say that with the biggest smile on my face and still being able to talk at the same time. But again, thank you for all the support. As always, I'm your minifig host, Matt. Let's build on it.